But you have clear ideas on this. You, for instance, are more attracted to the idea of a carbon tax than an emissions trading scheme. You say a carbon tax would be fairer, less open to abuse. Could a carbon tax be a simple solution to the obvious split in coalition ranks?
Well, let's wait and see. You're right, Fran. I think that if I were in government and more able to make these things happen, we would be thinking about all of this. But the fact is we're not in government. We can't run the country from opposition. And that's why, in the end, it will be the government's problem to deal with, not ours. If the government changes, different story. But certainly, I think that if the simple challenge is to put a price on carbon, if you were to put a carbon tax on energy consumption, if you were to put a carbon tax on fuel consumption, and if you were then to rebate that tax to the people who paid it, you would have raised the price of carbon, you would have avoided an increase in the overall tax burden, and you would have gone down a path that everyone understands. So I think that would have been a much simpler way of going.
But talking about cutting those taxes, I mean, the mining tax isn't even gathering any revenue, so there's no money coming from that for voters or for the government. And under the government's carbon tax, the majority of voters are not only being compensated, they're actually better off. So, in fact, you may be taking money away from the majority of voters.
Well, I don't think you should assume that for a second, Lisa. The point I've been making is that there will be tax cuts without a carbon tax. That means obviously we have got to fund the tax reductions through reducing unnecessary and wasteful government spending. Now, that's a challenge, but it's a challenge that the coalition is up to, and in good time before the next election, everyone will know exactly what the fiscal position will be under the coalition.
But that sounds a bit like robbing Peter to pay Paul, because if you're just going to compensate for the money that people are already getting, isn't that a bit of trickery in itself?
Well, absolutely not. The absolute commitment that I give to the Australian people is that the carbon tax will be gone under the coalition, and all of the carbon tax compensation, to the extent that people still get it, will be a bonus without the carbon tax.
I'm sorry, I don't really follow you. If people are already getting that money and you're promising that they're going to be getting more once the carbon tax is gone, isn't that exactly the same thing, or are you saying that you will do something on top of that money that they're already getting?
No. What I've always said, Lisa, is that we will fund carbon tax without... We will fund income tax cuts without a carbon tax. That's what I've said. Now, the thing is that this carbon tax is damaging our economy, it's damaging people's cost of living, it's not helping the environment,